Hello everyone! Today we're talking about self-acceptance, and let's start with a standard question. Let's clarify what it actually means to accept yourself.
To accept yourself means, first and foremost, to accept your entire DNA. That includes your mom, dad, grandfather, grandmother, and down the line, everyone who directly contributes to the formation of your body and your DNA.
Alright, does this mean accepting your body as it is now, or is it about something more?
It's all of it together because, for example, we have these particular eyes because maybe our great-grandmother had them and they were passed down genetically. So by accepting these eyes, you are also accepting that grandmother.
Alright, well let me just ask a question from my own experience. So, accepting yourself? This is a very common phrase that I used to say to myself and that others would say to me. And probably until recently, I didn't really understand what it meant at all. Because telling myself I accept myself didn't work. There was always something that bothered me anyway. So how can you actually understand in practice that you have truly accepted yourself? And right away, another question. How did you realize that you weren't accepting yourself? So there are two sides, acceptance and non-acceptance. How does this show up either in behavior or in life?
Self-acceptance is probably when you just look in the mirror and you don't feel like criticizing yourself. Well, that's probably one of the simplest examples. And accepting yourself. At the same time, it's when you have no complaints about anyone along your own path. That is, your mom, dad, and so on. When you feel calm inside. At the moment when you talk to these people or think about them. In other words, you don't have the urge to judge or anything like that. This is what self-acceptance is when, well, sort of.
It's like self-acceptance is associated with accepting the world around you.
By accepting yourself first and foremost, it becomes easier for you to accept the world around you. Then maybe at work, your colleagues, and you'll have a calm reaction to these colleagues. Next, maybe, I don't know, you'll live somewhere, but you won't have that feeling anymore where you get irritated and keep living there. You just start to take some action. But at the very least, you understand, this is a great place for me. I want to be here. And you kind of move there.
All right, let's get back to accepting yourself and accepting your body. So I'm going to ask you questions from my own personal experience now, maybe a bit silly, but still. Sometimes you wake up in the morning, look in the mirror, and you're not exactly thrilled with what you see. Then you get ready, put on makeup, do your hair, and you think, oh wow, I look great. So on the one hand, it seems like you accepted yourself during the day, but on the other hand, in the morning, things weren't so great. And this line, like self-acceptance, what is it even? Is it something that happens in the moment, or do you accept yourself once and for all for life?
Self-acceptance, I think, is also a certain process where from time to time something will come up, something will happen. Maybe, well, I think that at some point, to a greater extent, that very process happens inside us. When you look in the mirror and you feel completely at peace inside. But why does it happen that you look in the mirror, you don't really like what you see, you do something, and then your state changes? Well, in general, that's understandable because, first of all, when we wake up, there's always some degree of swelling. Yes, we do a bunch of things to prevent our bodies from swelling. Well, actually, it's not strictly necessary, but it's as if this process of accepting yourself goes through the act of doing something for yourself, and then you feel good and you accept yourself. But in reality, maybe you just did a little thing, like, I don't know, put on some eyeliner or applied some foundation, and it feels like, wow. But in fact, it's not that big of a difference. But inside, because while you're doing it, it feels like you've taken care of yourself, and you're like, well, now, yes, now I accept myself.
Okay, so what practice, well, roughly speaking, what helps you accept yourself? Because right now we've mostly been talking about the body, but really, self-acceptance probably also applies to character, since often, for example, we can't accept our past. And we're like, this moment that exists now, we've already gone through it. Some nuances, and we think that now it's easy and you can't understand why before you couldn't do the same thing. Even though, well, in that moment, now it seems very easy and just obvious.
Yes, you really highlighted that well. That's exactly how it is. It happens all the time. Self-acceptance, why is it connected to the past? Because all of our past is connected, again, to our DNA. Because if in our DNA, well, let's say in our family, there were bright personalities with great potential, but they never fully realized it. That potential was passed down the line to the children and grandchildren who were born later, to those who wanted it, who said, I'm ready to take this potential and fulfill it. That's why the past manifests itself in us so strongly and vividly. Here, I think I'd like to talk about specifically our recent experience. It turns out we just recently celebrated a birthday quite boisterously.
That's true.
Yes, absolutely. And that's also one of those very important topics we discuss. Lately, we've been consistently and actively sharing detailed information about the concept of shame. I suppose looking back that I really should have felt more ashamed that I threw up. A restaurant in the city center. And the most interesting thing is, I realized that I'm not ashamed at all. Because what I was experiencing there, I understood what was happening to me, that some process was going on, something was happening, and I was in such total trust with my husband and my friend, and I felt completely fine about it. And the next day, my husband and I laughed about it too. Overall, I realized that I didn't feel any shame at all. There was only an understanding that something was happening, and afterwards, when you start to pull yourself together a bit, I end up with a grandfather with great potential, who lived a long life, went through the war, and had a successful career. He had his own life story, which he wasn't able to fully work through until the end. And we already, as his grandchildren, it just so happened that during the war, everyone drank, including him, and we were always cleaning up after him, taking things out. And I remember that childhood feeling, carrying out that basin, feeling nauseous from all those smells. And apparently, as a child, I judged him so much for it that the same thing ended up happening to me. So, for the first time in my life, I had this experience where I just threw up in a restaurant in the city center. Well, that's how it was, yeah. An experience is an experience. And when I was feeling sick at night, going through the whole process, at some point it hit me just how bad I felt. And then came the realization that this was the moment when I could finally fully accept the potential that was passed down to me from my grandfather. But to do that, I needed to stop judging him for what he did. And at that moment, when, as you said, it happened to me, I was like, aha, that's it. I immediately felt better. I came to my senses. I was like, all right, I get it. The potential is accepted. The judgment is gone. And self-acceptance always comes, meaning this potential always comes with some kind of surprise. I don't know how it is for other people, but for me, it's always like that. And when at some point it hits me like, aha, but that's exactly what happened. Whether it was with my grandmother, my dad, my mom, it doesn't matter. And it always comes with some kind of surprise. And your task here is precisely to expand and understand, this dialogue with yourself. Why is this happening to me? Why am I here right now? Well, damn, I've never felt this bad from just like 3 glasses before. This time I think I almost died. And when you ask yourself this question, you enter a kind of process of expansion. And at that moment, certain changes happen where you understand why this is happening to you and for what purpose. And by developing a deep sense of awareness, by openly acknowledging and admitting, I am admitting that I was judging. And this honest admission is the very thing that ultimately sets you free. And at that very moment, it turns out, I don't know, well, let's say maybe a person has spent their whole life, for example, not accepting their stomach, right? Everyone worries about it, like I have a belly, I have fat and all that. But at the moment when you understand who it was connected to, whom you were judging, what was happening, well, and as if you understand what it was connected with for you, your stomach starts to deflate.
Okay, so from what you said, did I understand correctly that our internal blocks and self-rejection manifest themselves through the body? So if, roughly speaking, you accept yourself, it doesn't just mean agreeing, for example, that you're fat and doing nothing about it, right? Accepting yourself, from what you said, means stating the fact that, for example, you're fat. Sorry for being blunt, but we're exaggerating a lot here to make it clearer. And then you ask yourself, why is this the case, or what am I going to do about it? So what is the more correct way to work with this?
So yes, you state the fact and then you set the intention that, yes, I see this, but I want to change. And when you set an intention, you're already putting energy into the process of change. And when you put energy into it, it might not be connected to any of your relatives at all. It's just that for me, this is very strongly connected to my relatives, because for most of my life, I was very closely involved with my family. But there are people who were very close, not with their relatives, but for example, with friends, colleagues, or someone else. They have their own processes. And at some point, you realize what it was connected to. Some people even know exactly what it was connected to. For example, they know that, let's say, it was connected, for instance, with their father. But because the deep-seated judgment doesn't fully go away, the person keeps returning to it every time. They keep coming back and can't fully get out of it. And something happens, like sort of a little, you let go a bit, then bam, you bounce back again. You let go a little and then again. It's like a seesaw. And
Tell me, can a person, or rather, let me put it this way, can a person work through this on their own without outside help? Are there any practices for this? I don't know, for self-acceptance? Because self-acceptance sounds like you need to cover a lot of areas. So basically, you need to develop yourself in every area. And there will be a lot of issues that you need to resolve. And so I don't really know how to put it correctly here. Is it possible to give some general practice for self-acceptance, or is it always going to be a specific targeted request?
yes, you can give a general practice. By the way, I actually prepared one for sure. We can probably do it this way. Just send me a message and I'll send you this practice because it's quite long in text. It's a practice specifically for working through the body and observing. So this practice will simply show you where in your body you still have resistance or tension. And based on that specific area in your body, you can then understand what to do next with it. Because of course, not everyone goes through the process of immediately realizing, yes, I understand that this is connected to such and such. Sometimes you can simply breathe into that area. Try as much as possible to release that tension and simply allow yourself to say, yes, I accept myself as I am, but I am ready to let go of this tension, to let go of this pain. Well, there are certain phrases you can say out loud. We'll send them out in general.
So I had a question spinning in my mind. A question. I wanted to ask, do affirmations work? Like, I accept myself. That used to be really popular at one point. Well, does it work, at least in some way? Or is it just self-deception that could actually make things worse?
I can say that affirmations do work. In general, words are very powerful. Words are like something you've already released and there's no turning back. One of the most crucial things for you to understand and keep in mind is that it is actually very dangerous to give out a massive, overwhelming list of information all at once, simply because you need a great deal of energy just to even properly digest and process that vast amount of data. You need inner strength for that list. That is, if you say, I accept myself, yes, it works, but you have to be ready for the fact that wherever you say, I accept myself, but in those places where you subconsciously don't accept yourself, those things will start to come out, they'll start to show themselves. So you think you've said it, everything is fine, and then the moment you say, I accept myself, it's like you're putting litmus paper on yourself, and suddenly, one after another, all these moments come up where you, in reality, very deeply, you don't accept yourself. And it's exactly these kinds of moments that ideally should probably be worked through with a specialist. Because you need a space, you need energy in order to look inside yourself. But if a person considers themselves to be well developed enough and feels they have enough of their own energy, then they can do breathing practices, specifically focusing on the area where there is tension. There are a huge number of different breathing practices on YouTube. Some people prefer yoga breathing, others like holotropic breathing. There's also the Wim Hof method. Wim Hof, yes, the Wim Hof method has helped me a lot as well. There are different paths if you don't want to become a specialist. And what else can you do? And also, massage works great, of course. Specifically, acupressure massage. So when it comes to self-acceptance, you need to approach it in a targeted way. Find a specialist who doesn't just need your body, but who can actually feel and locate those points and help release them from your body. But keep in mind that the meaning of the phrase accepting yourself is different for everyone. It's very individual. Some people can process everything at once, while others need time. Some need 10 sessions, others need 20. So it's different for everyone. There probably isn't a perfect solution here. You probably just have to try different things. You can try breathwork massage, or you can see a specialist, someone who works with the body. That is, anything related to holistic or somatic practices. What other approaches are there? Anything that's connected to the body. And what else? Well, of course, there's also, by the way, I really want to add here that there's another effective tool. That tool is dancing. Dancing resets karma. I've tested it on myself. How does it work? Before you go dancing one way or another, and every woman chooses for herself. Some choose Eastern dances, others bachata or salsa. I mean, I don't know, high heels, there are so many different styles. For some reason, we all make a choice, a specific type. And at the moment you make that choice, it means that subconsciously you need to work something out. And when you go dancing, just set an intention before you dance. For example, I don't know, say your lower back has hurt your whole life, and you set the intention that your lower back is healthy. You go dancing and you don't have to think about anything there. You dance, you enjoy yourself, karma, you get completely renewed, and your lower back recovers.
I just wanted to ask about what you started saying, that you can physically work on yourself by dancing, going to massages. There are people who, it seems to me, don't worry about self-acceptance or working through things. They just do all of it. And I wanted to ask, does that work? Even if you don't set any intention, but just, well, your life is set up so that you go to massages, you take care of your body. So it turns out that you don't really ask yourself this question about needing to accept yourself. You just, I don't know, do it intuitively or however it happens. You just do it anyway, a priori.
Oh, that's a good question. Let me think. I'm trying to give it a try, to do it unconsciously.
Well, what I mean is, for example, you suddenly wanted to lose weight or look better. One morning you just woke up and thought, I want this. And you don't think, I need to accept myself. You just think, I want this. And that's it. This desire appears and you just go and do it.
I think intuition works really well here. Intuition? If you have that, you just go and do it. It's cool. Sometimes that happens to me too. And I just realize what I need to do and I do it. And then after some time, I understand what it was connected to. Maybe let's put it this way. You know, probably my husband asks me this question too, in the sense that men want everything to be simple without all these airy.
Without any esotericism. For them, it's just life and logical actions that you do for a reason.
Yeah, like building muscle. That's clear, that's understandable. Probably that's possible. Perhaps it is true that men might be able to operate in that specific way, largely because every single thing is incredibly structured and highly schematic for them. But right now, it truly seems like we have entered a time when you still deeply need to feel and intuitively understand exactly what it is you need to do.
I think my situation is quite funny. When I was 30, I signed up with my trainer. So we worked together with these exercises. Well, I just lost weight, got slimmer, and finally got the figure I wanted. And I realized that with this kind of figure, since I love dressing up, I really don't have to worry about what to wear. Everything looks great on me. And honestly, what motivates me most is that I can dress however I want. That's basically why I work out, because I really enjoy it. Well, like, I don't really know if this is connected to self-acceptance or not.
I think overall it is. I feel like self-acceptance is everything that brings you pleasure. But the most important thing is that you have to filter all of this through honesty. Because very often people deceive themselves saying, I already accept myself. But in reality, they're lying. Here, if you have a really effective, solid honesty filter, then you know for sure, yes, I love myself. To look this fit so that you can dress beautifully like this. Well, why not? Or rather, why yes? Yes.